Day 3 of the 2023 BRICS Summit, and ladies and gentlemen, we finally got the news we've all been waiting for. BRICS has officially expanded and will more than double in size, but don't just take my word for it. Here is South African President Cyril Ramaphosa with the breaking news.
As the 5 BRICS countries, we have reached agreement on the guiding principles, standards, criteria, and procedures of the BRICS expansion process.
Before we even talk about the countries who will be joining, the clear strategies BRICS took when inviting these countries, and what this all means for the dollar, we have to take a step back and see how we even got here in the first place, because just a few months ago, the idea of an expansion was not a guarantee. Have you ever tried to coordinate an event with your friends or your family, and since everyone has their own schedule, priority, or other plans, it was really hard to get together? That's basically what has been happening behind the scenes with BRICS in regards to expansion of the bloc. The 5 countries' goals are very different, and it was very difficult for them to come to a consensus agreement on not only who should be joining, but how this process would look going forward. Brazil has been interested in expanding membership, especially for its good friend Argentina, but they wanted to see a formal structure in place to the expansion process. Russia has had a hard time finding and keeping friends these days, so they have been really pushing for expansion. India has held a wait-and-see approach, dragging their feet publicly, seemingly not interested in expanding too soon. China is primarily looking after its own self-interest, and they have wanted any and all countries to join as soon as possible. South Africa, the least selfish country when it came to expansion, in my opinion, has been very open to expansion as long as the process strengthened the bloc's ties within the African Union. But early on at this year's BRICS Summit, it was clear that expansion was a major agenda item as it was brought up in multiple public meetings, and the leaders had closed-door meetings scheduled specifically for this topic. But then there appeared to be a last-minute resistance from India. According to Reuters, a source close to the situation said India's Prime Minister Modi threw a wrench in the process at the last possible moment, introducing new admission criteria. Modi proposed requiring members not to be the target of international sanctions and was also pushing for a minimum per capita GDP. It seemed like India wanted to make sure that a new member to BRICS didn't bring on any unnecessary baggage and that they could carry their own weight economically. The BRICS countries have economies vastly different in size and governments with differing foreign policy goals, a complicating factor for a bloc whose consensus decision-making model gives each member a de facto veto. Just because this was the last day of the summit doesn't mean I'm going to stop making videos recapping the summit as a whole, and of course all the dollar implications that go around with that. So if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Okay, you've waited long enough. Here is South African President Ramaphosa again, this time announcing the 6 new BRICS members.
We have decided to invite the Argentine Republic, the Arab Republic of Egypt, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates to become full members of BRICS.
That's right, Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates will officially join the BRICS bloc starting January 1st, 2024. Before we get into what this means for BRICS and of course the dollar, let me know down in the comments which country is the biggest surprise to you on this list. When I'm looking at this list, it is very obvious that BRICS had 2 strategies for their initial membership program. The first was to gain a stranglehold over the world's energy supply. The second was to create a fair balance of representation within BRICS. So let's start there. With India and China having the largest economies and the greatest global influence, it created an unfair balance since they are in the same region together. The addition of Argentina gives Brazil a partner in the region. Egypt and Ethiopia create stronger ties to the African continent, with South Africa still being the de facto leader. These additions help balance the regional influence among BRICS. But the more important decision of securing the countries with oil has the greatest impact on the dollar. By adding Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Iran, BRICS added the 3rd, 7th, and 10th largest oil producers in the world. And now altogether, BRICS would have 6 of the top 10 largest oil producers around the world. Even though pre-summit, the BRICS leaders said de-dollarization was not on this year's agenda, adding these 3 oil-producing countries is a direct contradiction to that statement. The dollar is tied so closely to oil transactions around the world. Approximately 80% of all global sales are transacted in dollars, giving it the name petrodollar. But we are starting to see a shift as Saudi Arabia is considering accepting the yuan in place of the dollars for their oil sales. And with China buying about 25% of Saudi Arabia's exported oil, we could see a dramatic drop-off in how the dollar is used for these transactions. Iran stopped trading for oil in dollars some 10-15 years ago, so them joining BRICS will have a minimal impact on the dollar. But the UAE just agreed with India to start trading for its oil in the rupee. So the petrodollar is definitely something to keep an eye on as these countries get closer and closer to becoming full-fledged BRICS members. While day 3 was packed with information, there was also some exciting news that came from day 2. So to find out how BRICS is using technology to reduce its reliance on the dollar, check out this video here.